Okay, now you can see he's black. I've got his brown. I had to come back, by the way, and put a second coat of black, and I actually redid the brown a little bit too because it's just getting a little too light. Now, one thing I like to do next is I'm going to take the same color right here that I mixed up to do his face coloring with, excuse me, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to take just a touch of burnt umber, which is dark brown, and I'm going to actually darken this up. Well, let's see. Well, maybe I'm going to use chocolate brown instead. It'll work too, which is the same one I used a while ago. I'm going to use chocolate brown, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to mix some. I'm going to get me a little more water in here. I want this to be pretty thin, and I'm going to take some of this dark brown and mix in here. I'm going to darken this up just a little bit, and I'm going to use it kind of as a shader, as you know, to put shadows in. Let me get this. Get me a pretty good mess. That's probably about a drop and a half. But I want to get this a little darker. A little bit darker even than that. And this is going to provide a shading color. Let's see if I like that. Then I'm going to take just a little bit of that, and then I'm going to come into places that I want it to be just a little darker, just to give it a little bit of shading, like right under his cheek here. Let it drift up on the cheek a little bit. Like a dark area in here. Oops, that's too much. Hang on. Get too much, wipe it off. If you wipe it off quick enough, it'll be alright. Now I'm going to come down in under here, underneath his neck, probably his whole neck. Paint that on and get it just a little bit darker. Areas like this. Now you might want to switch to a little bit smaller brush, or even that liner brush I used a while ago if you want to. It gives you a little better control. I want to make sure I come all the way down in here around the side with that, and right around that hairline with it. And this just gives you a little contrast and throws shadows. You know, carving's all about faking the eyeball out a lot of times. So I'm also going to paint his lip, on his lips a little bit darker. And maybe even just a little bit in that place right there. Also going to come right above his eyes, and I want to darken that shadow up just a little bit. Turn it over where I can see what I'm doing here. And maybe right in here in the hollow of his nose, just a little bit. Any place you want to accentuate a shadow, you'd want to do this. Wipe it off there. And this just gives you a little bit more texture. In fact, I like this so much, I may tell you the truth, I may paint the whole thing with it. I also want to get in here and do his little nose, layers of his nose in there with it. That's looking good. I kind of like that. You also want to make sure, in fact, just go down beside that, and that way if there's any places down in there you couldn't get with the brush, I'll tell you the truth, I like that color. I'm going to paint the whole thing with it. And then all I'll do, if I like this color, my Indian was a little too light for me. If I like this color, I'll just add a little more brown to it and use that to do the shading with. What do you think about that? So you can change your mind as you're going, and you can always come back and fix it later. I like that. Now since I used that color, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little of this black I had a while ago and put in here. What do you think about that? Watch what that does. I don't know if you can see that. You can't. I just took a little dab of black, maybe even a little bit more black, and added to that color. That's what you have to do, is just play around till you get something that you think looks good. Okay. Now then, This time though, I'm going to go to my little bitty brush. I'm going to load it up pretty good. And then I'm going to come and, remember, I want to accentuate a few of those lines. Hollow of his cheek's a good place. Make it just a little bit darker. Okay. Do the same thing over here. Same thing over here, like so. Okay, I'm going to come and run the bottom of that ditch I put in his chin, for lack of a better word, with it. Might even put a little on his lip there. And this will darken these areas. It really won't darken it up that much. It'll be pretty subtle, but you'll be surprised how much that can add to your carving when you do things like that. I'm going down in here around like that, and then I think I'm going to go ahead and kind of accentuate that just a little bit with that little bit darker color. It's not that much difference, but it and then here again I'm going to run it down in here along the sides and right up along the hairline. So you don't really have to worry too much about if you get it up there where the black is, because it's not going to cover the black by any means. These little areas right here. And that just adds a little more detail. Now you want to come down, if I can get where I can see, come down right in there and do a little bit, run it, let it run down in that crack. And then here again, if there's any areas you didn't paint, well, it'll darken it up and it won't show. Okay, what do you think? I think that looks pretty good. I'll give you a little closer look here. Okay, he's starting to look pretty good. Now that I got this, so guess what else I'm going to do with it? Down in here, I want to add a little bit of a shadow. Now all I'm going to do is take that small brush and I'm just really going to hit the cracks. And all that's going to do is deepen that shadow a little bit and make these things stand apart just a little bit. Now I don't want it all over the little tassels. I'm just running it right down in the ditch, and it just gives it a little better shadow lines. What it does, makes it show up just a little bit better. Okay. I'm using this very fine triple alt brush or whatever it is. Now if you get a little bit on it, just wipe it off, because this is thin enough that you can do that. In fact, when it dries up, it'll actually lighten up some, because it is so thin. And just little details like this that can make a lot of difference in your carving. Okay. Now then, I want a very little paint on here. I'm going to do the same thing right up in there. It's almost kind of like some people use a wood burner to separate their lines, and this does the same thing. It gives you that separation. And then actually I'm going to come right down under here and do the same thing. Don't need much, just very carefully. And like I said, it's a very small thing, but it makes a lot of difference. At least I believe it does. Okay, and there we go. Now the last thing to do, and this is going to be the hardest thing for you to see, I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to come down a little bit. We're going to go ahead and do the eyes. Now the first thing I do when I do the eyes is I take this satin cream, which is an off-white. You could use white, I reckon. That's all you got, and it's okay. But I use, and this will be put on the eye full strength. I do not dilute this any. The only thing I will do, just to make it flow a little bit better, is I'll let my brush, I just pull it out of the water and it's still kind of wet, just knock a little bit of water off of it. Okay, hang on, I'm going to come down a little bit with my telephocal lens here. And this is one of those deals where I usually wear my magnifiers, and I'm going to try to wear them. I hope I don't end up in the picture. Let me get right Let me come in even a little bit more. See if I can do this. So you can see what I'm doing here. Alright. And I'm just gonna paint this eye very carefully with that little bitty brush. Try not to get it, like I did, up on the edge. If you still got the brown, you can always come back and fix that. You gotta understand how hard it is for me to see this. Yeah. Pretty hard. A little bit. Go ahead and paint the other one, same way. I can't even see it, but hopefully you can, and I hope my head's not right dead in the way. Painting eyes is the hardest thing about the paint. If you're like me and over 50 or so, and your eyes aren't as good as they used to be, I have to use my magnifiers or I can't see this. Okay, there he is. I painted his eye. Now I got a little bit of mess up on the top lid on this right eye, and I'm just going to dip my brush in a little bit of that brown. I'm going to come back and very carefully. And it's too thin to paint it out. I'll come back and fix that later. Okay, now I got to let that dry. And then I'm just gonna, an Indian usually has brown eyes, and I usually use this chocolate brown to make my pupil. But I'm gonna take that chocolate brown, show you here, and I'm gonna add a little bit of white to it. That's just a little too dark, and if I put that in there, you won't even hardly be able to see it when you put the black pupil in it. So let me get over here where I'm just taking a little bit of that brown, just right there, because I'm not going to use much, and I'm just adding a little bit of white to it to make it just a little bit lighter brown, and just mix it until you get about what you're looking for, a little bit more. Okay, I'm just mixing it right there on my little palette. It's not going to take much, so I'm not worried about it. Alright, let me see. Alright. Now I'm going to come right here, and you never make the eyes look straight ahead, so you want to come, I'm going to come pretty close to this corner right here, and very carefully you have to turn him over and try to make a, now you're not showing the whole eye, part of the eye is going to run up under the eyelid. Make that eye just a little bit bigger. Get me a little more paint here. Be round right there. Make the eye too big, you can always come back, which I'm going to have to fix that a little bit. I don't like that eye. Let it dry, and I'll take a little bit of white and fix it. Now then you got to come over here on the other side, and it's going to start in about the same place, except it's going to be down on the eye. And turn it around. Do one half the eye that way, one half the eye this way. It has to be round. Keep working at it till you get it round. Stop, look at it. Make sure they're about the same size, which they're not quite, so I got to work on it just a little bit more. And remember, in the middle of it is going to end up being a black dot, which will be the pupil, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to have to let this dry and then I'll come back and paint the pupil in it. Okay, I'm back. I've kind of got this dry. Now I'm going to take and just put me a little, not much, just a little dot of black on my palette. And I'm going to take my very small liner brush, and I'm just going to dip it in there and get me a little bit of paint on it. And I'm going to attempt to paint in this. Let me get where you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. I'm going to attempt to paint in his eyeball, or his pupil, and it has to be pretty round. This is the hard, you know, sometimes it's easier, and you could just take the end of your, make sure you're into your paintbrush and dip it in the paint and do a circle, and that works. And I've often done that myself, as a matter of fact. Get me a little more paint here. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. Okay. And you want to try to make it so that you have an equal amount of black, or excuse me, equal amount of brown paint showing around the outside of his, let me get it back here, turn it around. I got to keep checking, make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, and I'm just going to paint this one under the camera because it's really difficult for me to do this. I'm in an awkward position. Okay, there he is. Let me raise him up a little bit where you can see. Maybe. This camera's getting out of focus too far. Okay, and that makes a good looking eye. Now when this dries, I'm going to go ahead and paint the other eye real quick. You probably won't be able to see it, but then I'm going to come back and put a glint in it in just a minute. Let me go ahead and paint this other eye. I'll be right back. Alright gang, I'm back. Now what I'm going to do is I got me a little dab of this white paint right here, and all I'm going to do is take a toothpick and I'm going to just barely stick it in there and get me a little dot. And what I'm doing is I'm going to put a glint in his eye, and I'm just going to come right outside and put it right where the outside of his pupil. Just a little bitty dot. Make sure you get it in the same place on each side. And there you go. There you go. Put a glint in both of his eyes. And I'm going to scroll back out just a little bit here where we can see him. And there we are, folks. There's your basic North American Indian. He's got a good looking profile. Got a good looking front. We put a shirt on him. Could have put a feather on him. We didn't do that. But I hope you've enjoyed this this tutorial, carving tutorial video, and I hope that you'll come back again and carve with us, and wait for our next video coming up in the series, which is going to be one of my new style wood spirits. And this is Gary McDaniel signing off and just telling y'all to come carve with us, you hear?